Here's an AMI This Week shortcut with Alex Smyth.
When it comes to living with a disability, no two stories are the same. That's why it's so important to get different perspectives and hear different stories from people within the community. That's why today I'm joined by Sam Moore and Jackie Rosen, co-hosts of the new podcast, What's the Difference? Sam, Jackie, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Jackie, what can you tell me about this podcast?
Well, the reason that I started the podcast is because I was born with a very serious congenital heart defect. And as a matter of fact, I wasn't even supposed to survive my first night. And I had a very, very different experience growing up than most kids. And the fact was is that my disability was hidden. Nobody ever knew that I was really, really ill because they couldn't see it when I was walking around. But I have spent weeks in the hospital at a time. I have had 5 operations, and what I wanted to start with this podcast was to kind of help people understand what it's like to live with an invisible disability and the struggles that you have when people don't know that there's something wrong with you and you're trying to access services or things that you need in order to thrive.
Wow. And that's so important to share those stories and to raise awareness. So Sam, I'm curious, what was your first reaction when Jackie approached you about being a part of the podcast?
My first thought was I was pretty excited because I had never really pursued that route. Like I never really was in, show business or radio or media. I have a little experience here and there. It's a nice way to be able to communicate the challenges that you have with either friends or family or just, people that you might not even know at all. I was excited. I was excited to try something different and maybe a little out of my comfort zone and make it work.
For sure. And you have 2 other co-hosts that are on the podcast as well. So how did they get involved?
Our other co-hosts are Cynthia Chang-Mintz and Stacy Kisselman, and they got involved because I knew Cynthia through a group of women who had babies through surrogates. And she actually lives with epilepsy as well as neurofibromatosis. And she was told that she couldn't have a baby the natural way. So we connected through that, and I asked her to join the podcast. And Stacy Kisselman is a friend of mine who also lives with epilepsy, but she also has cerebral palsy. And she is a freelance writer and is writing her own memoirs right now to try to tell people what it's like to live with epilepsy and CP. And so she's right now writing her book. Her book's coming out in November. And I just thought that the 4 of us together would make an awesome team. So yes, they are an amazing addition to our group.
And so why was a podcast the right medium to share this message, Jackie?
It is the one medium that's accessible to everyone. I want to make sure that everything is accessible both as far as disabilities go, but also as far as financially, because, it can be a struggle for people like us to find work. And, the more services that are available for free, the better it is.
There's so much that you guys can talk about, and this seems to be a really great space in order to do that. So I'm curious, Sam, what are you most looking forward to as you continue with the podcast?
Like it's great to cover, mobility and advocacy and stuff like that, school, business, employment, like those things. But it's weird. There's this big gap in the community for talking about like love and relationships and even just really not necessarily romantic relationships, but relationships between you and your parents, like how to really cultivate those and keep them healthy. Because having a disability does change a lot in that. And nobody ever talks about it, right? Like blind people are more likely to often stay in an unhealthy relationship because sometimes people struggle with their independence and that's not healthy. Like there needs to be more support for those conversations. So I'm really looking forward to being able to maybe empower people on some of those topics.
Absolutely. And it's good to remind people of that. So Jackie, where can people find this podcast?
On anchor.fm, searching What's the Difference podcast, but we've got a question mark after What's the Difference. So you can find us there. You can find us on YouTube if you just search What's the Difference. And of course, you can find us on Instagram at What's the Difference podcast and Facebook at What's the Difference podcast. And you can reach us by email at what's the difference podcast@gmail.com.
So thank you, Jackie and Sam, so much for chatting with me today.